Let's talk about the value of teachers who have a Christian college education.
This episode of the Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. And as always, the thoughts and opinions expressed within this episode are those of your host and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
I'm Mark. We are enjoying the time that we have together in 400 follower land.
Whoa.
This is the first recording we are making in the land of 400 followers. We are pleased to see growth on our per episode listenership. I'm surprised. I think I said this before too. I'm surprised about it being this time of year that we're seeing more growth amongst our listenership. We imagined it would have been summertime. Imagine when people have more time, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's when you have no time that you go and you look for professional development like this informal professional development. But we hope that's what you see us as. We hope you see these conversations as conversations that you should have had during your collegiate life, which means you would have paid us that same amount for them, right? That sounds about right. So, drop us that C note, as they say. No, we're happy to do this. We're excited to do this. And tonight we're going to talk about Christian colleges. So if you are at some point completely opposed to religious-based education, this would be a funny place to find you. But if you are one who has some sort of bad experience with Christian education at the collegiate level, or you're one who says, I'll take a teacher from anywhere, or, I specifically don't look for them, well, maybe there's 100 reasons why you may or may not listen to this episode, but this episode is going to talk about what we value as concerns educators who come from a Christian undergraduate space, a faith-based, a Christian, a biblical undergraduate space. Right, Matt?
Yeah. I didn't even think about it. We were not planning this, but I got some of our alma mater merch on right now.
Get that Marinasty going.
Didn't even think about that until you were just making that statement.
You are that cool. That's how you live your life, though.
That's it.
You're always one step forward. Well, I think a good place to begin this conversation is actually, though this is not a build the perfect episode, if we were going to build the perfect teacher, and this could be any teacher, really. If we're going to build the perfect teacher, Matt, would it be a perfect teacher, or how could you have a teacher that is built perfectly that has some other training other than training that is wrapped around the Word of God as concerns pedagogy,
right?
As concerns proper pedagogy.
Yeah, not only that, I know that we're focusing this episode on the training ground, which is the Christian education training ground. But I would even just take a step back further beyond that and say, if we're going to build a perfect teacher, this perfect teacher also experienced a school similar to what we are working in.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just college, but even their high school experience, maybe even their elementary up through their high school experience was in a small private Christian school or a large private Christian school, but one similar to which you are hiring them into, because that, and we're going to get into why we think that is important and why it's needed. But just think about that. The value of I'm coming into something that I am extremely familiar with, and I know what I'm talking about. That is going to be really valuable. But then to add to that, if there's going to be a training ground, as you said, to build the ideal teacher for us in our schools, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to say, well, they need to be trained anywhere but a Christian college. Yeah. Now we could get into, and we could talk about the strengths and weaknesses of Christian colleges and universities, and we might hit some of that in these discussions, but that's not really our point. And if we were to say it's a perfect environment, then even the Christian education that they receive is going to be perfect. But it's best case scenario, even if the college doesn't score 100% on their training, it's still going to be the preferred situation than a state university or something to that effect.
Your point concerning the likeness of you, the institution that you're serving in, and the likeness of the institutions which they have experience in is not to be overlooked. In fact, one of the biggest champions for this that I've heard consistently throughout my time is our youth pastor, interestingly enough. But he often refers to the value of having someone who knows our schools. In fact, his daughter recently got married, and he referenced from the pulpit talking about that marriage, how his new son-in-law grew up in a family like his daughter did. And so there's an acknowledgement there. There's an understanding of big family needs, big family drama, big family dilemmas, big family holidays, whatever it happens to be. Well, very much so in the case if I'm building this perfect, which is not a building the perfect, so we should get away from that. I introduced it that way, but we should
I
get
think
away
it's a
from it.
good way to start it. Yeah.
So moving away from it, as I think about why Christian college education would be useful for a teacher, I think at some point, okay, and at the very least in their undergraduate space, they have seen content taught from a biblical worldview, rashly bringing the Bible and bringing God and bringing Jesus into the curriculum. Now, I get it. One of the big knocks against Christian schools out there would be that, oh, it's just they pray and then they go about a public school day. Or they have a verse they recite and then they're just little public schools off to the side. There's no difference in pedagogy, there's no difference in content, which is amazing to me. You walk into the rooms and it doesn't look any different than what you would expect to see at just a neutral political space school. Supposing that's not their experience, we would imagine their experience to then be in a place which was, again, unabashed in its Christian stance and its biblical stance. And we would hope that's what our Christian schools would be that they're walking into. So at the very least, they have an undergraduate, perhaps a graduate experience in that. But yes, all the more so, how much more useful is it to have someone who knows the sort of school that you're in? And we're talking to people, of course, across. We recently held our Max Administrators Retreat, and there were 15 plus schools represented at Administrators Retreat. Schools from 700 down to 30. And it is helpful to have people who have been in those school settings growing up. Why do we hire alumni? Why are alumni a big deal to come back to your school? Why do you look within often? Because there's something to knowing that your teachers walked the same halls, dealt with the same relative politics or positioning in your city or whatever else it happened to be, and that probably transcends Christian education, to be honest. That's just there's private schools out there, there's public schools out there where they want their alumni to come back and to help them out. Now, in higher education, you don't want to have too many of your own pumped back into your own system, but that's a different animal. But here, yeah, if we had in every graduating class a student that we had identified and then we're going to pay for their education to come back and to be, I mean, that's pretty cool. That would be a wonderful cycle of teachers coming back and populating the reserves of the place. And that, again, one of the reasons that's beautiful is because they would know what they're walking into. They would
Yep.
know everything from the people to the, just organizationally. Again, take the Christian off of it, put whatever worldview you want on it. It's very nice to have someone who knows how the copier works. It's very nice to have someone who knows they don't go to this person and they talk to this person this way. They go to this person, they talk to this person that sort of way. And then their message gets across as it needs to. We want that. We
Mhm.
want people who have that level, at least that maturity, that social IQ to be able to jump in situations and do that. And if they can't develop that social IQ, perhaps it's better just to have somebody who grew up in it. So it's not even, would we say, second nature to them. It's something they know from the start. There's value there, and organizations, secular and sacred, would tell you that, would affirm that to you. So before we even get too far into why Christian college pedagogy training is useful, it's just useful to have somebody who has Christian education in their background
Yeah.
at all, at all.
Yeah, even in another related, very, very related sense, just in a practical sense, when you are hiring. Now, I guess we gotta clarify.
Uh-huh.
We're going to kind of build off of the assumption that perhaps the majority of Christian schools are going to have some kind of a requirement that the teachers have a salvation testimony,
Mhm.
be perhaps, like Faith, perhaps as a non-denominational school, it's, kind of a little bit more open, but you're going to want at least to have the same philosophy.
Mhm. Even a non-denominational school is gonna have a statement of faith,
Right.
which
That's what I was trying to think of. Statement of faith. Yeah.
even if this person is you teachers from 20 different churches in the area,
Right.
but they have to, when they show up at that school day, subscribe that they're not going to present a view on a topic in scripture that's against what the statement of faith of the school
Right.
offers. I imagine that's where you're going, yeah.
Now let's be honest. We're in a time where I just need a body. I need a
Yes.
teacher. And I
Mhm.
need somebody who is capable of both teaching the content and being able to control a classroom, which are things that are going to be taught regardless whatever educational program you're in, Christian education or state education, you're going to be taught that.
Mhm.
So being able to have a teacher who has that, that's golden because we're all looking for it and we're all struggling to find it. Period. Okay, just on
Mhm.
that level. But then if you find that person, and this has happened to me, I have found that person who is perfectly qualified to teach the content. They will control the classroom. Yet I've got to work through, but they go either to a different church or they don't go to church and they don't have a salvation testimony. And is this somebody that we can really put in front of our kids that
Mhm.
clearly doesn't line up with our mission, with our philosophy, with our faith, and what we're trying to accomplish? And these are to be leaders and examples. And you have to dismiss that opportunity be, because of faith and philosophy lining up and all of those kind of things. So to know, and I think when we go out to recruit, we're going to be recruiting from the colleges that are like minded with us
Mhm.
for that fact alone, because chances are, now it's not 100% certainty, but chances are when we get a candidate from one of those schools, they had to have some kind of a testimony to get into that school, and they had to, you know, uphold the code of ethics and whatever it is while there. So chances are when you sit down and you're looking at their philosophy, when you're looking at their testimony, it is going to be something we're like, okay, phew, we're on the same page and we can move on. Now, granted, I don't want to overlook that as just good, check it off. We just started by saying that is extremely valuable. It
Mhm.
is. It's massively valuable for more than just the hiring process, but that is just in a very practical sense. You can cut a lot of that part of it out and just focus on okay, now I need a qualified teacher who can control a classroom and can do these other things, and focus on that as opposed to the like-mindedness.
We are speaking to Christian school leaders that we firmly believe are of our ilk. I'll put it that way. Right now in the state of Maryland, our schools could sign up for the state funded grant, which is for textbooks and technology. And in that grant, there is a very specific portion of the grant's requirements which says that if you sign up for this, you will send over a copy of your handbook. And in the copy of that handbook, there must be a statement that says this school does not deny enrollment to anyone based on their, and it lists everything you would expect, including gender identity,
Mhm.
sexual orientation, and religion, which of course takes the schools like Matt's Faith Baptist School and others that, again, I would say of our ilk, and those are of our listeners, who more than likely have an enrollment policy which would disallow students who would come in. We'll just pick on the religious side of that, who were Muslim students to come in. It's not going to be an open enrollment policy that way. It may be evangelistic, and perhaps it is open enrollment. And so maybe the religion wouldn't hold somebody back, but then you get that sexual orientation and that gender identity. Those are going to be ones which hold back many of our, uh, I'll say, sister institutions, but you and I both know there are sister institutions by name out there
Mhm.
who are affirming or who hold stances which we would find completely opposite to scripture. So we understand that we're talking about a certain subset, but all the more reason why the Christian college experience is one we're going to look at and look for first. Because if we happen to have a certain stance on dress, music, the way we go about church life, the way we go about relationships with families, whatever it happens to be, and I start with dress and music because they come to mind first, but please don't think those are the only things that would separate us. Theology,
Yeah.
the level at which the church is reformed, or the church is Calvinistic, the church is like the way the church goes about evangelism, the expectation of the school. And we are talking, where we have schools and churches that are closely aligned, but a lot of Christian schools do, and even those that don't operate, like we said, off a statement of faith, which somebody has to write, and then somebody has to oversee, and someone has to take a line and hold a line on. The expectation that something as simple as the expectation that students will not be listening to what is considered worldly music on school property. Well, that's not going to be held across all of our Christian school
Mhm.
institutions. And so if there is an expectation that someone coming on the school property as a faculty or staff member had never been introduced to that before, it's one less conversation I have to have with somebody who did know about that before. And I'm taking a very small slice of the pie. I get that here. But to the point of, we want Christian college educated teachers because there probably is a college or university out there which represents our ministries rather closely. And so going to them, it takes so many questions that I would have if I had just, you know, it's very easy right now for me to
Mhm.
go on to, say, LinkedIn, or go on to monster.com, or go on to one of the major job search sites, right? And just send out a blanket job description and to get fed back results.
Mhm.
And you've done that.
Mhm.
You've dug through the trash, right? I remember you doing that, and the number of candidates that come back might be 100, but the number of true candidates that come back, and even reading through their resume, we say, like, you
Lucky to get
mentioned God.
one.
Yeah, you mentioned God in here. I guess that's close enough to
Yeah.
at least have the front of a conversation with you. That number is so small. And the way they talk about God may just be they go to, they go to their local park on Sunday mornings and they commune in nature with it could very well be so far out of line. It's not worth the time. It's not
Mhm.
worth the effort in that recruitment. So having that Christian college that was aligned with, or, the ones that might be slightly less aligned and then slightly less, you shoot for the center of the target, you back out from the center as you need to, and that makes sense because you know what? Secular businesses do the same thing.
Yeah.
They start with their preferred colleges. My best friend Joseph went to Grove City. Grove City had a number of employers that would come to them and say, "We want your top guys," and that's where they went. And they would just year over year collect their employees from Grove City. So it was a little, Grove City engineering shop over here and Grove City whatever else over here, because those shops wanted those graduates. It is what it is. You want to say something?
Yeah, well, maybe I need, like, my AACS friends that are responsible for accreditation and things to cover their ears for this part.
Cover your
But but I have kind of a personal opinion that maybe is best not shared on this podcast when it comes to qualified educators. In that same instance, putting the blanket recruitment out there and getting a lot of people to say, "Oh yeah, I can teach," and they're nowhere close to like-mindedness, as we were just saying. If I put out a need for a teacher in a Christian college, and let's just say that this Christian college has no education major candidates, like it's happening.
Mhm.
The programs are shrinking. I put it out there. I put the bait out, see if anybody will take it, and I get contacted by a business major or a nursing major or even one of those weird humanities majors. Yeah, yeah.
Ain't nobody know what to do with our lives.
I would so much rather give them a shot
Mm.
because what is the value? They may not have gone through and got the pedagogy, but they experienced Christian education. And you can say, "Hey, who is your favorite teacher? Why?" And you can do a crash course of classroom management, and you can do professional development to help them along the way. If they have the heart, they have the knowledge of the content, they can communicate it clearly, they can work. I'm just saying, like, I would so much rather take somebody with that background who perhaps doesn't have a teaching degree than to have a qualified teacher who is not like-minded at
Oh,
the end
well,
of the day.
and most times our mission wouldn't allow for it.
Right.
We do need to get more focused on this topic as perhaps at the why a Christian college? Why
Mhm.
Christian college pedagogy? And you can think about your own time. I'll start with a thought here. God has blessed me to be able to teach at a number of different colleges and universities, both online and face to face. I have my CV pulled up here. I won't name all of the schools, but I do want to just quickly read off numbers. So I have taught education assessment, history, philosophy of education, research design education, action research, intro to exceptional learners, methods of organizational research, English Comp 1, English Comp 2. I've taught that face to face, hybrid, online. I've taught literature courses, Brit Lit, Western Lit, Bibles literature. I've taught journalism. I've taught research writing, English 100, so it's a college writing course, media in today's society, speech, technical writing. And I've done that at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 universities. I tell you right now, right here, I've expressed this to the boss I've had since 2016, routinely update her on the same, that when I go to the Christian colleges that I'm working with, and yeah, they're private colleges, sue me, and I teach an English composition course there versus the English composition course which I teach at any one of the public universities. And there, a couple of these public universities are universities of distinction. For those of you who are not watching this, I'm holding my hands one above the other right now. The level at which I can expect a student to be able to interact with me at the private Christian university, as opposed to the level I can expect a student to interact with me in the content at the generalized public university in the same exact course, which if either one were going to transfer to the other would transfer without even blinking. The difference is incredible. Without exaggeration, there are students who are receiving credit right now from public universities for a class like an English, I'll just say English Comp 1. They wouldn't be able to get out of English 100. They would not get out of a remedial class
Mhm.
at some of these private universities. So for that as well, just for something as simple as that,
Higher
the
standard.
Christian college experience, it is a higher standard.
Mhm.
We say that we hold our students to a higher standard, and that's one of our calling cards. We had the literacy episode a little bit ago. That's one of the calling cards of our schools. No matter the size, that's one of the calling cards. We say that what we're doing allows for a higher level of academic standards, and we truly believe that, and we would show you the numbers to back it up.
Yeah.
Well, those students congregate at Christian colleges often, which means those Christian colleges have a student body that largely expects, or many of whom expect to be held to a high standard. And I know I'm painting with broad brushstroke, but this is my reality. I have to literally change mindsets when I teach concurrently, and I've done it before, teaching, the same class at different universities. I have to change mindsets about how I even send an email to a student. The level of the vocabulary I should use to send an email to a student at one university versus the level of vocabulary I should use at another university. Even instructing them on how to be appropriate in communication or with the professor, which by the way, that's not just me being priggish. That's actual from at the universities top down. There's expectation that students will act professionally because it's part of their professional development. So the professional development includes learning how to email somebody. And the conversations I have with the text language conversations I have with some students versus good morning, Dr. Zockel,
Mhm.
content. Thank you so much for your kind attention to this email. Name, it's night and day. So you have to take my word for it, and my word's as good as for whatever you give it to be. But I've done it. I do it. There's a difference. There's a major difference between the two.
When we do our self-study for accreditation, I remember there was a question about, it may have been philosophy of education or something like that. Like why is Faith Baptist School, stand out from everybody else? And you and I both jokingly wrote down, because we teach the truth,
We start with the
period,
truth.
done.
Next question.
Nothing else needs to be said about this.
I also challenge you to write us up for anything besides "This is an awesome statement." I don't think they picked up that
No, I did.
Easter egg. I don't think they did. We're gonna leave it in there for the next time.
Yeah, but
At me, Shane
but
Bird.
at the same time, like, that's it. I remember
Yeah.
talking with in my travels as a college recruiter,
Mhm.
I was speaking with a recruiter for police academy, and we're recruiting we're helping kids with their college decisions, and we're like, oh, hey, we get kids to ask us about criminology all the time. Like, what should we tell them? And he told me something very interesting. He said, well, if kids are interested in going into the police force, we want them to be college educated, but tell them get anything other than a criminal justice degree. And we're like, really? Why? And he said, because first of all, they come and they're know-it-alls. They feel like they know everything. And the way they were trained is not the way we train. And so we have to untrain them. And so he said, if I get a resume or whatever in front of me that says they went to college and got a criminal justice degree, I don't want them.
Hmm.
Now, granted, like, I would like to think that a quality criminal justice program is going to be keeping up on what
Sure.
the best
Yeah.
trainings should be, and they're going to set them up properly. But that's kind of the same thing. I don't want to have to retrain a teacher from the very beginning of, okay, this is what we believe about education. This is what we believe about behavior. This is what we believe about grades. All these different kind of
Exactly.
things are going to be challenged coming from anywhere else.
Think about it this way, to your point exactly. In a Christian university, the pedagogy courses should be different than the pedagogy courses you're going to receive at a public university. Why? One believes in innate depravity. One believes that the student should not be, very clearly. I won't name the university, but I will say I was teaching their undergraduate English classes, and I had been doing so for a number of years successfully. Well, well commented on, good evaluations. A new head of freshman writing came and joined and wanted to leave her mark on the university's freshman writing program. And she told all of us who were teaching the freshman writing classes that we were no longer to be telling students they were wrong. Out of her mouth, we don't tell students they're wrong. No red ink. You will not be telling your students. This is out of her mouth in emails. I'm sending emails back saying, did I get something? Did I miss something here? To my peers and saying, wait, are you guys hearing this?
Am I
What's
wrong?
crazy is am I like, what's going So my peers are saying, well, we're just not going to listen to her. We're going to do our own thing. I'm like, I'm supposed to follow authority. Like, I'm going to have to try this at some level. But of course, it's a joke. But that comes out of a pedagogy that, she's trained in the ivory towers that say you're better off just letting the student find an editor later on and not pushing them, or never tell a student they're wrong. That same university I had in a social, the staffing side of the university, I was also told the same thing. We don't tell students no. So I don't really, I'd rather find a student who'd been told no a few times before and told, like, you need to increase your ability, not just be okay with where you are right now.
Because as we've said, failure is success.
Failure is success.
But
get out there and fail, folks.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by our partners at the Herzog Foundation, whose mission aligns beautifully with ours to advance and support Christ-centered education. The Herzog Foundation exists to catalyze excellence in Christian schools, helping more children experience academic rigor, biblical truth, and strong moral character, all in a safe and nurturing environment. Whether through teacher training, principal development, or strategic media efforts, the Herzog Foundation is committed to helping you, the Christian school leader, fulfill your calling with excellence. Their vision is bold but clear, a national renaissance in Christian education that impacts culture for generations. At the Christian Principles Podcast, we're proud to stand with Herzog Foundation in that mission. Learn more at herzogfoundation.com. Together, we're building schools and futures on the rock of Christ. And as always, tell them that the fellas here at the Christian Principles Podcast sent you their way.
Tired of report cards that look just like spreadsheets? GradeLink makes it easy to create professional, great looking report cards that reflect your school standards. And since parents can optionally view them online, there's less paper and less hassle. Head over to cpp.gradelink.com to see how you can upgrade your report cards.
I know we are hitting that time, but
Cooking.
I do want to say this because I almost feel like, other than hearing your melodic voice in my headphones,
you.
I'm hearing our audience with those hoorahs and huzzah and preach it and shake that bush and all that, stuff. Because I'm assuming that you, our listeners, wholeheartedly agree with us. But here's something I want to kind of challenge us, and I've been kind of challenged with myself. We are in a time of really struggling to find these teachers and to find them from the Christian colleges that we are looking for. Those, Grove City moments. We're going to steal that one and say, we want the students that come from there because they're quality students, and we're struggling to see them come. And I would challenge and ask, are we sending kids there? Are we getting a hold of our kids and showing them, first of all, showing them the talents that God has given them, perhaps is lending itself to education? Are we encouraging them? You are benefiting from a program like this. Think about the impact that you can have on the future generations. Here are quality programs that you should look into. Are we encouraging them to get there? Now, I know encouraging can only go so far because we're not the parents. We don't get to, officially say where they get to go or where they don't get to go. But, we got to be doing what we can to kind of set ourselves up to have those opportunities to be getting these perfect teachers that we're looking for.
Yeah. I graduated with from my doctoral program with a guy named Richard Warren. He became the Maryland State Teacher of the Year. He was, I think, like third place in the nation and went running for the U.S. Teacher of the Year at one point. He's since made his way away from the high school. He was teaching out into the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And here's his biography of Richard Warren Jr. He founded the UMES Men of Color in Education Program. UMES is an HBCU, by the way. At UMES, he founded the UMES Men of Color in Education Program, an innovative program designed to educate K through 12 men of color to become teachers and provide the support to them through high school, career, college, and career continuum. So here's someone in a secular setting who is making a program focused on a smaller subset of possible teachers here, men of color, and he's saying, I want to help you. Wherever you are, elementary, middle school, high school, I want to give you opportunities to develop yourself as a teacher before you get to college, and then see the field, get a feel for what's going on in a school situation, enjoy yourselves, or figure out it's not for you. But there's also that seeing somebody else do it who's doing it well, wanting to pursue after their footsteps, being a part of that family sooner, being able to relate to peers sooner. My wife, she knew she wanted to be a nurse by the time she was knee high to a sparrow, as my grandmother would say. There are students out there who want that. Are we pushing them? Are we challenging them? Are we offering them opportunities? What are we doing to help fill that void? Because you're right, that void is absolutely there. So, as has been said about Christian schools in general, Christian universities in general, we would hate to come to a point where we miss them. We would hate to come to the point where we said, wow, I wish we had a Christian college out there as an option because the ones we had all shut down because of lack of enrollment. How close are we to saying the same thing about education? I'd hate to be at a spot where there were no Christian universities of correctly aligned with Faith Baptist School, for example, that they had lost their education programs because lack of involvement, and maybe we don't have all the answers for that, but that's definitely a reality when public, private, you name it, there's a dearth of teachers. They just, they're so hard to find.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be said. Man, we said so much already, and I would want to note for our listening audience, this topic came from a listener. Specifically, through Facebook Messenger, we got a reach out from Miss Kisty Miller Huffman. She is at Summit Christian Academy in West Virginia. We're actually going to be sending out the Christian Administrator Spotlight to Dr. Kathy Hawks there at Summit Christian Academy. She's a director there right now, so we'll pray for her in a little bit. But wanted to send this out because Kirsty is the one who brought us this topic and asked us to talk about it. Why Christian college educated teachers are needed. That was part of a longer message. But hey, Kirsty, hey, we said we were going to do it, and we did it. We bumped you to the top of the list, and here we are just a couple episodes later from when we would have otherwise had what was going to be here not be here. But you got bumped. Your topic got bumped, and here we are talking about it. So, Kirsty, thank you so much for this topic. This was great to talk about. We know we didn't hit everything, so tell us why else you love to grab teachers from Christian universities, how you do it, what the formula is, what we can steal from you in that way. As we said, the Christian Administrator Spotlight goes out to Dr. Kathy Hawks. Matt, we are too far in to say much else besides thank you for what you do, Kathy. Please pray for Kathy now.
Father, thank you so much for Kathy and this ministry that, from what I understand, is brand new, just getting started a couple years in. And I thank you for her leadership and her willingness to lead. And I pray that you would be just allowing her to be surrounded with quality, like-minded faculty and staff that are a part of that exciting ministry. You would just strengthen her, guide her in her walk with you, whatever personal struggles she might be having. I pray that you would give her answers, support, encouragement from her church family, from her school family. Lord, I pray that the rest of the school year would be one that is just setting them up for future successes as they continue to serve you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I sent out 6 of our canary envelopes of encouragement. Make sure you get yours. Make sure you go to our website and take the opportunity to drop us a few bucks so we can send another one of those out to whoever you'd like us to send it to. But with that being said, we've said enough. Thanks for growing with us today.
We want to thank you for listening. We're honored that you spend this time with us each week. Our heart is to bring you practical conversations and resources that really serve you as a Christian school leader. One of the best ways you can help us spread the word is by leaving us a review and sharing the podcast with other Christian school principals you're connected with. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation and share any posts that resonate with you. Every share makes a difference in helping more leaders find encouragement and practical tools. And remember, the podcast is just one way we help. We also love serving schools through speaking and workshops. Our keynotes and sessions are designed to give you actionable strategies you can take back to your team and implement right away. If you'd like more details, just send us an email at info@christianprinciplespodcast.com. We'd love to connect. Until next time, thanks for joining us on the Christian Principles Podcast.